Very nice music from the band in the studio this morning. I'm sure they'll be giving us more of that kind. We go on with the news review segment, and this morning I have Norman Magaya of NASA and Ann Nyokabigadesha, Kiambu woman representative of the National Assembly. We are looking at what's making the headlines. Before we took the commercial break and entertainment from the band, we were looking at the issue of NASA going to court to bar the deployment of the military, and how the Jubilee party have taken it and made it a subject during their rally in West Pokot yesterday. Now we quickly move on to Turkana, where the NASA brigade, led by the flag bearer Raila Odinga, were canvassing for votes. And one thing that came out clear is his commitment to ensure that he signs into law the petroleum bill that will give 20% of the revenue collected from the oil exploits back to the local people. Now this is a contentious issue that was initially, the way the bill was drafted in 2016 is that the local people were supposed to get 10% of the share, the county government was supposed to get 20% of the share, and the national government was supposed to retain 70% of the share. Now President Uhuru Kenyatta took back the bill to Parliament and requested them to relook into it and ensure that the percentage that is given to the local people is not as much as was approved by the parliamentarians. We look at what Raila Odinga and the NASA brigade had in Turkana before we delve into this story.
The politics of oil fueled a large part of the National Super Alliance hunt for Turkana County votes in Lokichar, Lokui, Loima, Kakuma and Lodwar town. NASA flag bearer Raila Odinga upping the stakes in the oil-rich county with promises to dedicate 20% of the oil revenue to the county government.
Sasa sisi tunasema kama una mafuta na una maji, unatumia mafuta hiyo kuchimba ile maji na kutumia maji kwa uchumi ya taifa ya watu wa Turkana, sio? Sasa vita na nok na Bwana Uhuru Kenyatta ni juu ya mafuta ya Turkana.
NASA also digging at President Kenyatta for declining to assent to the Petroleum Exploration, Development and Production Bill of 2016 that proposed 15% revenue for the host county.
Uhuru alikataa kuweka sahihi. Amesema nataka ipunguze ibaki 5, sio 10. Sio 10. Yeye mwenyewe ndiye alikataa, sio mtu mwingine. Anamwambia na nok kama hiyo makuta ikae chini ya ardhi.
Hatutakuwa chakula kwa meza. We will sit on the table with the rest of Kenyans if we support NASA.
Mimi nikichaguliwa wiki kesho, wiki ile nyingine mimi nitaweka sahihi hiyo sheria.
Na sisi tunaahidi haki yenu watu wa Turkana, kutoka Kitale mpaka Nedapal. Jubilee wamechelewesha hiyo barabara. Hiyo Raila na Kalonzo na Weta na Mudavadi tutaharakisha kabisa.
NASA appealing for a huge voter turnout among the over 199,000 voters in the county.
Nane. Hiyo ndio siku ya mabadiliko Kenya. Hiyo ni siku ambayo itabaki kwa historia ya Kenya.
Walimu 1400 katika Kenya hii tayari.
Thank you very much, my director. Norman, how true is that when the NASA flag bearer says nikichaguliwa wiki hiyo ya kesho, wiki inayofuata nitaweka sahihi?
You know, it's not nuclear science. Benefit sharing agreements.
No. We'll get into that. I just want to know how true is that akichaguliwa wiki kesho, wiki inayofuata ataweka sahihi?
Of course, by implication is the week after he's sworn in and Parliament is in session.
I like the way you turn it around. Of course, you and I know 1 week after 8th is 15.
You know, you have 14 days if there is no petition.
And the 14 days is 22nd.
But if there is a petition, which is likely they are going to bring.
No. Their speciality it's not a speciality to go to court.
We said we will not go to court.
I wanted that to come out clearly. That he will not sign it 1 week after winning the election. He has to be sworn in if he wins the election.
No, that is what it means by implication. Don't accord those words their literal meaning.
All right. You know that crowd there? Maybe that is what they took. But tell me about this.
What he's telling the crowd is that this is a matter of great priority. We will do it as soon as we have the instruments of power. That's what it means.
Now that's clear enough coming from Norman Magaya, the NASA CEO. Now tell me about the petroleum bill. Quite contentious. It's becoming a campaign issue. Nobody has forgotten the clip that went viral about the Babs.
Mheshimiwa Rais gawa vizuri.
Yes.
I think if you look
what
at
does the law say about
it
natural resources?
If you look at it realistically, the Constitution itself in Article 70 builds that there will be benefit sharing with the host communities. And I think there was another bill by Senator Gideon Moi on the local content and the sharing of benefits. But if you look at the world over, in oil-producing countries, there is normally a standard set of benefit sharing between the local community, between the local administration and the central government or the national government. And those percentages normally range 10%, 20%, and the national government takes 70%. And it's for a good reason. One is that oil exploitation itself has very extreme environmental consequences. It changes the structure of life of a community. Like this is a pastoral area, you're going to be sure it will change. And then oil comes with the gas flagration that again has extreme environmental impact. And what that fund normally is supposed to do is to try and mitigate. First help the community adjust to a different lifestyle, because they may have to change their economic activities so that they can be able to manage the new environment that they are on now. And then the government retains 70% for the reason that oil has three facets of revenue. It has the direct sale revenue from the oil, it has the royalties, and it has bonuses. Sometimes actually the royalties and the bonuses are more than the direct revenue from the sale of oil. And there is no cost benefit sharing in the bonus and the royalties. They all remain with the national government.
There's no contention about their 70%.
And I think partly I will say you could attribute it to lack of experience with the legal minds in the Attorney General's office, because we have not been in the business of production oil. But if they had done a little bit of research, and they will have advised the President that it does not harm the industry, the benefit, the sharing of 30-70, because the government will still take 100% stake in royalties and bonuses. But you also need to remember that production sharing agreements, and especially the model that Kenya was using, because the Petroleum Exploitation and Production Act that was there, number 360, that was there, actually allowed the Minister for Energy exclusive mandate to negotiate and enter into production sharing agreement. And those production sharing agreement, the oil exploitation companies recover their costs from the production, and normally in the first year they take 90. The home government takes 10. In the second year, it's on a reducing balance as they recover their costs. So it may actually take 5-10 years before then the country gets into a period where they are able to benefit optimally
and split it 70-30, like you say.
Yes.
And you were in the National Assembly that passed the petroleum bill, which was taken to the President, and he sent it back to you to reconsider. Is this putting the President in a tricky situation 10 days to an election with the Turkana vote?
Now, you know, when you take a look at this issue of the Turkana oil money, that whole revenue sharing, 70 national government, 30 local. The cost of energy production is, everybody knows, the input, the equipment, etc., is very high. But in terms of the revenue sharing of this, and which Magai has clearly been able to establish, you know, there's different parts of the three revenue sharing agreements that are there. However, this is not something that we should politicize, simply because when it comes to the sharing of the natural resources and the environmental impact, those are still responsibilities under the national government that will require the reinvestment back into the community to ensure those level of adjustments, based that we have not completely devolved some of those responsibilities, and especially when it comes to the issue of oil manufacturing, etc. We find that even the construction of the pipeline, because we need to move that oil from there to for export, refinery, etc., and all of that. Who is bearing the cost of all of that? Isn't it our national government? Now, when we start using hubris on issues that clearly are not understood and saying that need to sign here immediately, and
he's clarified that.
No?
My issue is, how does this play with the president and the Turkana vote?
It's politics.
It's a known fact that you people in parliament passed that the local people get 10%.
Correct.
Including the Jubilee candidates from Turkana.
True.
It went to the president. He sent it back to you and said adjust it to 5%. Your opponents have taken it and are running away with it. How does it affect the Turkana vote for President Uhuru Kenyatta?
Now, let us put it this way. The Turkana vote is an important swing vote for Jubilee. And if you take a look, I think it's only the gubernatorial position that has gone is ODM. I think Jubilee held the rest of the National Assembly seats.
But not the presidential vote.
In the last
elections,
yeah. The presidential votes went to Raila Odinga.
They went
the gubernatorial vote went to ODM.
And it may be used as one of those reasons where he looked to after all, if it's just Nyanza that is going to give NASA the presidential vote, they'll try and steal into that Turkana vote to get that part. Maybe some sections of Nairobi Coast, maybe 50-50.
So you say this does not affect. It
will affect to a certain extent that issue. But if you take a look at it, was brought back to Parliament for additional debate, correct? And I think the issue that informed that is that maybe a larger percentage should go now to the county government. So 5, because we are still maintaining the 70-30 equation.
Yes.
So the 5% reduction from the community for it to go to the county government, I think in the end, when you start playing politics, when you are actually empowering the governor so that he can be able to bring development to his community, it can be used quite.
Are we likely to see the president going to Turkana and giving in? We have seen him go to Kisii and give out money for IDPs. We have seen him go to places like Western Kenya and give out money for various projects. Are we likely to see the president going to Turkana?
Why would you ask him? How would he know?
No, I'll come to you.
The Turkana vote is gone. That one I can assure. We have it secure in the basket. Secure. But what I will say is that, again, as I said, they insisted by the president that the 5% only goes to the community. I think it is his advisors, especially, is out of ignorance.
And 25% goes to the county government.
He assumes that the 5%, the 5% or the 10% that was to go to the local communities managed by the county government. To the contrary, normally the way these funds for local communities are managed, they are managed through a consortium of both the national government
and the local
civil society, the local administration, and the community representative. Okay, which the government still has an influence, because those funds are kept by the exchequer. So, if he had that realization, then he will have signed that bill as it were. So, and again, even before we go to that, and which is an inherent weakness, and that's why I will say that Kenya is actually trading dangerously. If you look at the African oil story, it is a paradox of plenty. Okay, that you have so much resources, yet your economy is underperforming. I will give you an example. In 1959, when oil discovered in Nigeria, all the way to 1966, the Nigerian GDP was going at a rate of 25% per year. Fast forward 40 years later to 2002. The Nigerian economy was receding, and by that time revenue from oil was 179 billion Kenyan shillings. So you can see the contradiction. So even before we deal with this question of benefit
Allocation.
sharing, we must.
No, he has mentioned that that is something that needs to be reviewed, and the 12th Parliament, I'm sure, will take a look at some of those issues, and probably more professionally in terms of understanding. We don't want to go the way the rest of the other African countries have gone in terms of we have a lot of resources. A lot of the paradox of it all, and we would want that. But the issue as brought up is quite fair. Our governors, and in terms of what governance issues and structures have they put in to ensure that not only the resources that are coming in, but all that is there, because we have known if no matter who stands up and says I will sign it in, what is your track record in terms of governance, in terms of resources that had been allocated to you? How did you manage them, and how did they empower the people that those that were under you to be able to get there?
It's not about resource allocation; it's about management. So
yes,
she
and
says.
governance.
No.
Yes,
there is nothing about management, okay? Because the overall policy for implementation of funds from oil revenue, okay, actually is administered centrally by the national government. And the experience in most oil producing countries is that most oil investments are actually not used in the present. That you must be able to use a little of it in the present, but you must secure most of it in a sovereign fund. Because remember that this oil production, as I told you, has extreme environmental consequences, so that you want to secure the benefits for the community today, but you also don't want to compromise the ability of future generations to meet their needs and aspirations. So and that's why I said we are on a false start, and I think it is time everyone stepped back and realized that
manage
we must
the
develop
excitement
and law on oil revenue.
Manage the excitement.
Yes.
Get everything right before we
and
start
and bring our communities to capacity to the table where we are able to even utilize these resources the way they are supposed to, so that we can actually grow those communities, reduce poverty, increase, allow water to be able to be available to everybody.
So you will agree that the dispensation that is transcending now has failed in doing that. The National Assembly, the national government, the county government, because discovery of oil in Turkana did not come yesterday.
It has been there for a while. We know Tallow has been there, and I don't agree with your terminology. There's no way that it has been a failure. No, it is actually a progression and a growth and a movement forward, because you don't start with full knowledge of everything. And as we're growing, you start to discover, okay, we need to have adjusted this and this too. And there's no way that we have any static.
Fair enough. I think
Charles, just a last point on that issue. You see, the other aspect with oil exploitation is before even you start production, because immediately the first drop leaves Turkana, the expectations are different. So there must be a clear policy on management of expectations of the local population, and that's how conflict starts in oil producing areas. That they think you're exploiting and gaining revenue from these resources, and they can't see anything tangible on the ground, yet they are the ones bearing the consequences. But most significantly, I think it was the wrong way in which the government was going about it. We will have been the first country to extract oil and transport it using trucks. We will have been the first country. And it's very unfortunate also that we are now going to start the phase of oil production without a national refinery. Remember, we closed our refinery in Mombasa, which means we will export all our oil.
Crude oil.
Yes. And then import.
We are not adding any value to it.
Oil. We are not adding any value.
I really don't think so, because when we take a look at, I know that there has been, and I'm not sure if that has been finalized, to revive our oil refinery, and I do believe that there was to be a location that would centrally serve not only Kenya but Uganda, the East African region, where the location of that refinery would be, and I think it was going to be taken to the oil producing regions for the where the refinery would take.
Actually, we have
an issue with that.
What Museveni was doing was to persuade Uhuru that Kenya should leave alone its refinery and then actualize help the oil refinery in Hoima in Uganda. And that actually can be accounted for the breakup of negotiations on development of an oil pipeline to to transport this oil.
The more reason why Uganda chose to go through Tanzania.
Yes. Yeah.
Quite interesting, and when we come back, we'll be looking more at the regional integration issues, because page 4 of the Standard has a story about Tanzania blocking 20 Kenyan farms in export row, despite the agreement that was made just about a week ago. One of the raft of issues that Tanzania has now raised is that Kenyan professionals have to pay up to 5,000 shillings for business visas, even if they're just in Tanzania for a one-day business trip. Right back after this short commercial break.
It's time to exercise your complete freedom to have a good time. And the freedom to experience the best. 10 over 10 and Hot 96 present this unmissable moment. Live and direct dance hall sensation, Busy Signal. Tune in to Jeff and Jalas on Hot 96 this Friday morning, then later 10 over 10 to catch Busy Signal live. It's freedom of choice and a license to have fun with Joy Muthengi and Willis Raburu. Don't miss out.
Leo ni mambo na nyama choma. Ugali nasikia inanukia. Pia hebu check hiyo. Unaona?
Hiyo imeijia kabisa.
Very nice, eh? Ikianguka imeiva. Remember, browning is not cooking. Wewe buda, wewe mzee, pikia watu nyama choma kwa nyumba, wajibambie tu kwa nyumba.
Turkana Power with Kenya Power and Chef Daniel every Sunday at 5:30 p.m.
Welcome back to the last segment of this news review panel. This morning, Norman Magayo, CEO NASA, the National Super Alliance, and Mheshimiwa Ann Nyokabi Gadesha, Member of Parliament for Kiambu County. We look at page 4 of the Standard, and Tanzania blocks 20 Kenyan farms in exports row. Now, Brookside Dairy is among the countries that companies that have been blocked from accessing the market despite last week's pact ending these hostilities. For a Kenyan businessman to now go into Tanzania, you need to pay up to 5,000 shillings as visa fee, even if you're going for a day. Is this good for the region?
I think Tanzania is in flagrant violation of the East African community laws and how we as a community, a nation of brothers, are supposed to exist. Unfortunately, their membership, the influence of SADC is
that is the Southern African
Development Community. It is working to the detriment of establishing East Africa as a trading bloc on its own. And I think it's really unfortunate, because if we take a look at how many Tanzanians that we have in this country, the amount of trade that we do between the two countries, for it to be jeopardized by
are we losing somewhere on our foreign policies or on our regional integration and relations?
We have,
because Kenya is looked at as the big brother.
As the big brother, and we know, I think Kenya has compromised a significant amount. We've agreed to open our economy. We don't charge them for visas.
Is that a weakness?
I wouldn't say it's a weakness. I think it's taking the big brother approach and saying that, you know what, we are not going to close our economy. We are not going to turn and become reactionary, that our neighbors are beginning to close down their economy to Kenyans. But I think as a nation where where we support each other, if there's an issue in Tanzania, the first person to go in and help would be Kenya. If there's an issue in Kenya, our brothers down in Tanzania would be the first people to come in and assist. I think we have actually worked. Our East African court is there. We have the assembly, IALA, East African Legislative Assembly, is there. We have developed so many of our policies where we take a look and we say, okay, we do the anthem, the regional anthem, education. We want to ensure that our traders, their traders, are able to free movement.
Talking of
without
education,
passport.
Kenyatta University are closing their campus in Tanzania.
In Tanzania, it is very unfortunate. I think
which begs
our
the
policy
question, Mheshimiwa Nyokabi, which begs the question, despite all the concessions that Kenya has given as a big brother, where are we losing it out? So much so that we have to suffer like this, because you can't say it's a regional problem with Tanzania. Uganda have decided to rechannel their railway line for oil exploration through Tanzania.
True. I really doubt that it will actually begin to take place. That has been a discussion that they will, but I'm sure we will still continue using the efficiencies that are within the Kenyan border. As a nation and as a country, we have given our overtures, and I'm not so sure that our brothers across the street in NASA, and
he'll tell us about it. Just tell me about it.
He will tell us about it and what their influence in terms of our regional policy. But I think it is.
Do you think they're influencing some of these things?
Well, we were given assurance by Magufuli that that is not the case. I know he's trying to rebalance his country and ensure that economically they're growing and they've restarted their industries. And Kenya is always looked as a country that an economy. Before Tanzania makes a decision, the question is always what is Kenya saying and what are they doing
so
about it.
NASA is not influencing anything.
We would hope not. We would really hope not. And the fact that NASA has a tallying center in Tanzania.
Oh, they do.
You know, it would.
During the debate, presidential candidate Raila Odinga said they have tallying centers in Kenya, and maybe the clouds.
And maybe the clouds in Tanzania.
No.
So,
that's your that's your statement.
I don't think so. You know, and though that kind of statement and these kind of reactions are the ones that would now have people asking the question, begging the question that really is there something? That is going on.
So you think even without being in the government, they could influence a foreign government?
We would really hope not, especially not to the detriment of their own country where they live.
Kenyans now have to pay up to 5,000 shillings for visas to go to Tanzania, our regional brothers.
First of all, I don't think that is true. I've seen it here. I've been undertaking my PhD studies in Tanzania the last 4 years. I was just there last month, and I was not charged anything. I find this completely strange. I don't think there is a visa fee of 5,000. At all times, it's treated with a lot of dignity at the border.
And what about this trading block?
I've always gone by road. So I don't think it's. But I think this altercation, I think, is a classic case of failed diplomacy, and somebody must take responsibility. This back must stop somewhere. It's not a question of Kenya playing big brother and making concessions. Rwanda is not a big brother. Rwanda has given concessions to every East African nation. No work permits, no nothing, for all East African citizens. It's not a big brother in East Africa. I think we must step back and try and trace what really is the problem with our diplomatic front, that it cannot execute these deals for us with our neighbors. That is the question we need to interrogate. Is our trade policy and diplomats doing their bit to ensure that we are able to sort out this thing? Because I can tell you that when it comes to this, there is no politics here. It's about interests of Kenya first. Because when these firms suffer, when they cannot trade, when they cannot export their goods,
they shrink the profit margin and affect Kenya.
Yes, they shrink the economy and everybody suffers. So this is a question of the country first, and we must be able to confront the question of a failed diplomacy. I think Amina and her people in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs have done a poor job. The president, as the captain of the ship, has also done a terrible job. We must hold them to account.
What would you have expected the president to do?
I think most of these things, and I will take you back to Moi days. Moi will take the front seat in hammering out these regional issues. I don't think if the president himself intervened, a word from a president to a president must surely mean something. It must mean something. It must be that our promises made must be kept in good faith. This is the time you said, okay, I'm not looking at my diplomats. It is my country that is suffering. I must provide leadership. He must place a phone call to Magufuli and tell him, hey, look here. We are neighbors, we are brothers. We rely on each other to grow our economies. Can we sort out this thing? And it will be sorted out.
Yeah. The president's own intervention?
I don't believe it's it's a difficult thing, or that he has not been able to reach out. I know we're in campaign session, but the 20 firms, I'd like to also take a look at what which ones they are and what sectors they represent actually.
Sectors. Among the companies that are affected in the trade ban.
Not companies, sectors. What sectors?
Okay, the companies will tell you which sector is the milk processor, new KCC and Brookside, cigarette manufacturer BAT, all cement makers, Vivo Lubricants, which markets Shell lubricants and brands, and Bidco oil refineries.
It's unfortunate, because those are industries that employ thousands of people within our economy, and when we take a look at, in the interest of brotherhood, I'm sure the president will sit at some point and speak to Magufuli. But even within Tanzania, I don't think you can say that you may have gone on for some studies, but teachers in Kenya, in Tanzania, we know what issues that they have faced. There seems to be some sort of, I don't know whether it's an implosion that we can call it within Tanzania, where there's a reactionary, it's closing down reservations. They're closing down anything Kenyan. They're taking our jobs instead of opening up and growing their own economy, because you don't grow by closing everybody out.
Which begs the question of what he said: have we failed diplomatically to handle this whole issue?
Now when somebody is having internal problems, and you can only try and bring them out to a certain level until they decide and they sort out their issues. They are trying to sort out the governance issues that they have within the country. Why they would think that foreigners are responsible for their governance issues is an unfortunate thing, to try and say that, okay, that we want to keep our jobs. No, you grow your industry, you make sure that your own economy and your own people have access, and that your economy is growing, so that you are able to accommodate everybody the same way Kenya is.
I think I will repeat and reiterate that this is a case of failed diplomacy, and somebody is now trying to play the cycle of Kenyans, putting it in the media and try and project Tanzania as a hostile neighbor, to mask the inadequacies that are in our foreign affairs ministry. I think this is something that must be sorted out.
I really don't agree.
Actually, he said, I think. That's his opinion.
The reason being, when we are at the East African community, we are at the point where we're looking at monetary integration.
And I know of so many
and it's a coalition of the willing, right? So there's many, in terms of East Africa integration, there have been several steps that we have been going through, and trying to bring Tanzania into the fold. But you work with countries that are willing and are at that level and ready to move on. Rwanda is one of those that within the East African integration process that are among the front leaders in terms of integration and development.
Thank you very much, and we need to wrap it up at this point in time and get some music from the band. But I am told you have a farewell bash 2 weeks from now. Does it mean you're quitting politics completely?
No, actually, it's a Thanksgiving service that I'll be hosting on Monday. So
it's not a farewell bash?
Well, it is. My term in terms of politics in Kiambu has come to an end, And I will be giving a Thanksgiving service on Monday morning, where we will say thank you to the community for the opportunity to have served them for the last 4 years, and to launch all of the projects. All public schools in Kiambu County, primary schools, we've been able to put in equipment for the disabled. We'll be giving checks to 200 women groups, and saying kwaheri tuonane 2022 or at a future date.
Kwa hivyo utarudi.
I'm not sure about that, but it is to be seen.
No man, your plans for the week ahead. 10 days, very quickly.
10 days, I can comfortably say that from our planning for the election date, all our plans are ready, we are set. We're putting final touches on a few things. And what we want to ask our people is to turn out in their numbers, that people will vote peacefully, that the results will come out timely, that Kenya will be stronger and greater after 8th August. There will be no war.
Norman Magaya of NASA headquarters, and Anna Nyokabi Gadesha, Member of Parliament for Kiambu County. Thank you very much. My request, when you have that farewell party, please plant a tree, just one tree, to commemorate your farewell. And Norman, in commemoration of your preparedness, please just go and plant a tree now at your headquarters. Thank you very much. My name is Charles Odhiambo. We leave you with the band.